Hey guys, Chris here, and I want to talk today about boundaries, and particularly setting boundaries with parents, conversations, topics that make you feel uncomfortable. And maybe you're in a family which is enmeshed, which is going to focus on today. Could be a guy enmeshed with his mother, and the mum is like just asking questions and sort of expecting you just to answer them. And then if you don't answer them, it's kind of like, well, why are you not answering? I'm only trying to make conversation. But at the same time, it's listening to the feelings in your body. If you find it uncomfortable, then it's likely that there's been a boundary which is crossed. And obviously, if you've not been taught, and the thing is with enmeshment is that it's not really clear where the lines actually are. You're kind of merged into one. So it's likely that with the parent as well, you're probably crossing their boundaries. So, but the way you can change this and take personal power is to be aware of it. Obviously, you can perhaps become aware of where you're crossing their boundaries, but most importantly to start with is being strong and sort of putting a boundary in place for you. So like I said, the common areas: relationships, money, career, anything that's quite personal to you that you don't wish to share, that you want to share with people who are safe. And it's fine to be more safe to share stuff with your friends than your family. Because I feel like that's what we do. We look for different friends, we look for new people in our life to feel more safe, and look to grow out of the sort of family dynamics. And the relationship with a parent and a child is always different. Perhaps the parent wants to make sure the child is safe. So that's what comes to these questions and happy. But we have to understand where a line is crossed. So particularly I got it with relationships, like, oh, are you in a relationship? Have you met someone yet? How's the dating going? How did that date with that girl go? It's like, there are just certain topics that you don't want to discuss. Money, anything around money, anything around personal finance, anything that gives you your independence it's fine to sort of have that, particularly if you want to be financially independent. If you start telling your parents about how much money you've got and this, then it's more likely they will come in and they will start either lending you money. And a lot of people see this as a bit of a luxury, when it's not. It's an envision of your privacy, of your finances. This is something that I feel every adult should have their own control over, because you want to have your own, you want to have your own control. You don't want to be constantly like going back to your parents asking for money, because that is the trap you fall in. If you had your parents as a point of no return, they wouldn't give you any money. It's more likely that you would support yourself financially and you would do what it takes. But for many people, just end up quite lazy, don't do much, because they know they can always fall back on their parents. So have that strong boundary. With career as well, sometimes it can be perhaps asking a bit too many questions, how your job's going, and if it feels like it's a bit like, okay, you're just becoming way too interested in my life, I feel a bit uncomfortable here. And it's having that boundary. Or if you feel like it's a constant certain questions, if you got promoted yet, and you feel like, oh, this feels like there's a bit of pressure here. So it's making it known and just saying like, look, I will tell you if I get promoted, and say it obviously in a nice way. But if it's kind of like, oh, just making conversation, if you feel like there's a constant tone, constant conversations that are being repeated, and it's getting quite irritating for you, your body is the compass, as you should always remember. So take that as a sign that perhaps a boundary's been crossed, and let it know that boundary's been crossed. And we deserve to have our own lives, our own separate, independent. And if we don't do this to our parents, we don't expect to do that. And just keep your level of respect other people, respect them, and just people in general. And it's more likely that everything will fall into full circle. But the reason it's so difficult with parents is because we feel that rejection. We don't want to have conflict. We don't want to say no to them because we fear we might get rejected by them. And because enmeshment works both ways, it's that parents are enmeshed, say with their sons or daughters, but equally they're enmeshed with their parents. So if the parent's identity is part of the son, like, I need to make sure this person's happy, they're married, they're doing this, they're doing that. I mean, a lot of codependent relationships do exist, because it is always this fixation of how's my son or my daughter doing? Oh, they got this job, they did this, they went traveling, I'm so proud of them, blah, blah, blah. But it's important for you to be separate. So, at the same time, you can make sure that you don't become too inquisitive into their life as well. And it's okay getting to know. It's like, look, I don't feel comfortable talking. It's about your feelings serve you, and you shouldn't go against your feelings just to please your parents. Again, this is typical with enmeshment, is you put other people first. You know, your parents' feelings come before your own. And as long as you keep that dynamic up in the rest of your life, you will be putting other people's feelings before you. So you always end up last. And that's why you don't feel good enough. And relationships don't work because you can't look after yourself. You can't put yourself first. You know, we talked about the examples, particularly with a guy, you know, can't find a partner, but can't look after himself financially. You know, can't keep his own privacy to himself. Has his sort of his mum or parents coming into his life. You know, so he still remains a little boy. So remember that, to be sure with boundaries. If your parents don't understand the boundaries, that's okay. You can just say like, well, we'll just have to disagree there, but I'd rather not talk about it. Eventually it will set in. In the beginning, it might be like, what you're talking about. And because there's an element of control with your parents, with you want to control. So you'll always override that and just to test people, but stay firm. It's likely that a few other times, maybe they keep asking about how much money you've got. But as I found, eventually it just works and it goes away and they go, okay, I can't go there. I can't cross that boundary. So it does work. You have to be firm. You have to repeat. You know, and sometimes you can even, it was just like, if they keep mentioning it, go like, well, I don't want to talk to you because you just don't seem to respect my boundary. And then once that's very clear, it will eventually dissolve. But the fear of the conflict of this getting in the way of that is the reason why we don't do it. But there's an opportunity to get out of your comfort zone here, set those boundaries. And as I found, your financial life, your relationships, all the rest of the stuff for your privacy and stuff, and just having your own true self and freedom and understanding yourself, getting yourself more, being more aware of your feelings, putting yourself first. There's so many benefits, and it's to see this as being unhealthy. Although it's comfortable at the moment, but you have to make that leap of faith if you want to live a truly free life and to live a great life. So hope you found that video useful, guys, and do give it a go. Drop me any questions if you've got any more, and I'll bring some more videos on enmeshment.